Am I the asshole for threatening to take my future sister-in-law out of the wedding party? Hey, Reddit. I need some outside perspective on a situation that's been stressing me out lately. I, 28F, am planning my wedding for later this year. For the most part, I get along well with my fiancé's family, but things have been a bit rocky with my future mother-in-law lately. I've always had a good relationship with my future sister-in-law, who's 19 and still in college. She's a bit of a tomboy and loves sports. Not a girly girl at all, but that's fine. I still consider her a child. When picking my wedding party, I knew I wanted her as one of my bridesmaids because getting married is a unity of families, and I know her being a part of the wedding would make her feel included. When it was time to order the bridesmaids' dresses, I ran into a problem. My maid of honor was put in charge of making sure the bridesmaids ordered their dresses I picked out of each of them. My sister-in-law was unresponsive to my maid of honor's attempts to contact her. So, I reached out to her and my mother-in-law for help. I have been vocal with both of them since about 7 months before about which dress I want sister-in-law to wear, and we are now ordering the dresses about 3 months ahead. These dresses are not crazy expensive, about $200 with shipping, which I feel is a reasonable price for a bridesmaid's dress that is cute and can be worn again after the wedding. 2 days before the deadline, my future mother-in-law suddenly decides they'll have her dress made instead, which came as a shock to me. I expressed my concern about matching the color to the other dresses, as it was a unique shade for our wedding. She said it could be done with a swatch, but I hadn't ordered one since I was satisfied with the color when I saw it in person. Tensions escalated, and I mentioned that if the color didn't match perfectly, it would upset me, as it would throw off the overall look. This is when my future mother-in-law called me a bridezilla and criticized me, saying I should be saving money on this expensive wedding and spending it on a house, then said it was unreasonable to make all the bridesmaids buy their own dresses that they didn't even like, aka referring to me not giving sister-in-law one particular style of dress. My sister-in-law has broad shoulders, apparently according to my mother-in-law, and she wouldn't look good in the dress I choose for her. So, she demanded for her to have the V-neck. However, when my maid of honor and I went to the store and tried on all the dress styles, the V-neck was very low, and I knew that my tomboy sister-in-law wouldn't be comfortable in it. So I gave her another style that I knew she would be more comfortable in. In the heat of the argument, I said that if she didn't order the dress that I picked for her on time, she wouldn't be allowed to be part of the wedding party. My fiancé agrees with me and supports my decision, but now I feel conflicted because I truly want my future sister-in-law to be part of the wedding and I know it isn't all her fault. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. While $200 isn't a lot for a working adult, it is for a 19-yo. So Mill must be paying. And she's got to be paying more for a custom dress. But Mill is forgetting this is not her wedding, nor the debut of her daughter. This is your wedding. You decide the colors and the dresses. If the bridesmaids don't want to wear them or can't afford them, they should bow out. At least your fiancé is backing you up. My only criticism is you might have said your SIL didn't have to be part of the wedding party instead of not being allowed to be part of the wedding party. I think any marrying couple making their bridal party pay for their clothing and footwear are aw. That should be your expense, not your friends supporting you. But that's by the by. Everyone sucks here in this instance. You did state what you wanted and they're changing plans on you with not much time to go. You need to take FSIL and have a proper chat. Get Mill out of it and talk to her directly. Will you post a photo of the dress? Just curious. Nah. Stand your ground and stick with whatever lines you set for them not to cross. Am I the asshole for calling my parents out on how much they paid for my sister's wedding? Throwaway account. This happened 6 months ago, but I am legitimately curious to see if I am the I, 36M, got married 6 years ago to my wife. My wife's family is not well off like mine. When we announced our engagement, my parents gifted us $20,000 out of the blue for the wedding. We were shocked and so thankful. The money paid for my wife's dress, her siblings' wedding party outfits and makeup, and the venue, food. We managed to have a small, beautiful wedding and even had $3,000 left for the honeymoon. I am beyond thankful for that money and know that we would not have had our wedding without it. Plus, being able to pay for her family's outfits and makeup really helped lessen their financial burden. Here is where I need to ask if I am the My sister is getting married and I just happened to be at my parents' house and got into wedding talk. My sister was going on and on about all the plans. I come to find that my parents agreed to shell out $35K for the venue and cut her another check for an additional $20K for other expenses. My sister and her fiancé are both doctors. These expenses were outrageous to me because I have been married and know it can be done significantly cheaper. I went to my mom and asked why she allowed my sister to pick such an expensive venue and there was time to find another one. We made our wedding work off $20K. How can she excuse my sister's being 3x the cost? My parents are retired and in their late 60s, early 70s. She told me that my sister's future husband's family were high-class people and have certain expectations. I asked what that meant and she said that they couldn't be expected to have such a meager budget like my wedding was. I was floored. I asked her if she thought $20K was a meager budget, and what did that say about what she thought of my wife and her family. My mom said I was making a big deal out of nothing. A woman's family pays for the wedding. My sister was just having an expensive wedding and it is none of my business. I agree that it is their money and they should spend how they want, but that high-class and meager budget comment has been eating at me since. It seems to me like my mom is saying that my wife was lucky to get a wedding because her family is not well off. I haven't mentioned this to my wife because she does have insecurities about how my parents feel about her and it might hurt her. Am I the asshole here for calling out my parents on how much they are spending on my sister's wedding? Edit. A lot of the same questions. My parents did gift us the $20K when we said we wouldn't be able to afford a big wedding, as my fiancé's parents were not able to help. We did not go into this engagement expecting a cash gift for the wedding. We planned to have a small wedding and we had one without going into debt. That would never have been possible without my parents. The other question as to whether I want the additional $35K, of course not. I was making a point to my mom that it was so much for a wedding. Not the asshole. This sounds a bit like a cultural thing and you did mention the bride's parents paying for the wedding. This would in part explain not wanting to appear cheap to the groom's parents, if they are financially better off. Stop comparing your life to your sister's. Don't mention this to your wife. Focus on being a loving, supportive husband and father. Not all wealth is financial. If you have an understanding that it's your parents' money and they can spend it how they want, then you shouldn't have been asking why they were spending so much on sister's wedding. It's not your business. With that said, your mom's comments and implication were shitty and hurtful. You are the asshole. Your mother is right. Traditionally the bride's family takes care of the wedding and reception, while the groom's family takes care of rehearsal. That said, 6 years ago your parents gave you $20K for your wedding. They are covering much more of your sister's and you're jealous. Nobody is holding anything against your wife's family, especially due to their financial status. Many of us got married, paying for all of it ourselves. We had no parental assistance. Your behavior sounds petty and is riddled with jealousy. If it bothers you so badly, then talk to your parents about how unfair it is. Maybe they will come up with $35K for you to do whatever you want. Isn't that what you're driving at? Not the asshole. It's not about money, it's about equity. Your parents are gifting to their children in vastly unequal amounts based on gender. That alone is enough to make them taw. The rude comments about class, income are just the cherry on top of this shit sundae. It sounds like your parents have some antiquated ideas about things. You may need to pick your battles though. You got a wedding paid for. Your sister got a wedding paid for. Your folks are both extremely generous and utter snobs. I think you're being too sensitive to your mom's comments. I would just be happy that my wedding was paid for. Am I the asshole for bringing meat to my sister's vegan wedding? My sister is a hardcore vegan. She is against all animal cruelty and suffering, and it is one of the main things I admire her for. I have 2 kids, Cassie, 7F, and Chase, 5M. My sister's wedding allowed kids. I was very grateful for this as I'm seen as the overbearing mom. I don't like having babysitters since they're just randos who could do God knows what to my kids, but it also was made clear that it was a vegan wedding. Chase has been going through a phase where he picks one food and sticks with it for months. I have tried to offer him other foods he likes during these times, but he just wants his chosen item. If he does not get it, he ends up throwing a huge tantrum. I don't support his behavior and try and steer him away from it, but sometimes it gets tricky. His chosen food this time was sausage rolls. Knowing this, I knew that if he got fussy at the wedding he would cause a disturbance. Cassie also tends to want things that her brother has but usually gets sick of them after 2-3 weeks. I had packed a lot them since if her brother had ate them all then Saz would have started an uproar. Everything was fine until I got asked by my son if there were any sausage rolls. I had given him some and asked Cassie if she wanted any, but she declined as she had gotten tired of them fairly early. I still had a lot left over since combined they ate a truckload. One of the guests, sister's friend Matt, must have seen this since he came over and asked me for one. I didn't think much of it and handed him one. I'm not sure if this is important or not, but not many of my sister's friends are vegan or even vegetarian. A few minutes after Matt had came up to me, 2 more people did. I had declined this time because it felt a little rude, but the friends left with an annoyed expression. My daughter had come back up to me after playing with the other kids and changed her mind and wanted some. I let her grab some, then she ran again. My sister then came up to me and was glowing red. She started going off on me about how it was her wedding and how I couldn't just hand out non-vegan food to others since it was disrespectful. I tried to explain to her that it was just for my kids, but when she had told me that, "No one else's kids are acting like this, they're all fine with the food, maybe if you were a better parent Chase wouldn't be in this phase to begin with." Like I said earlier, I'm a bit of an overbearing mother, so when she had said that I just snapped. I yelled about how her closest friends didn't even like her food. Most of the food was prepared by her, and some other immature, hurtful things. I got up and left with my kids, arguing while walking out. My sister has blocked me on everything and our parents and friends are calling me the asshole for walking out on the wedding over something so small and that I should just apologize, but until she takes back what she said about my kids I'm making zero effort for her. So what do you think, Reddit? Am I the asshole? You are the asshole. How are you not mortified? This whole post is embarrassing and I'm not even the mega asshole who brought meat to a vegan wedding because I was too self-absorbed and lazy to parent my children for one evening. Why didn't you just feed your kids before the wedding? Or why couldn't you have stepped outside for a little while they ate their sausages? There were plenty of alternatives to breaking out your stash of meat right there in the middle of your sister's vegan wedding, especially when you know how passionate she is about it. You are the asshole. You are the asshole. There were many ways to face this hurdle that didn't involve the public, or meat, or insults. You prepped enough to bring sausage rolls, but you didn't prep enough to find anything on the planet that has no meat for your kid. You didn't take the kids elsewhere to feed them. You are the asshole. You brought meat to a vegan wedding. You are using your kids as an excuse. You were disrespectful, not okay. You are the asshole. If it's so hard for you and your family to abstain from animal products for one day, you should have skipped the wedding. Am I the asshole for making my wife take on 100% of the mental load because she took on another second job? Hey everyone, throw away, my wife Tracy, 30 female fake name. Knows my, 31 male. Maine, also on mobile. Tracy is amazing in almost every way, the only issue is some of her views surrounding family, work. She immigrated alone at 20 for her second degree and set up roots for her brother, Sil, mom, dad to follow. In her culture women manage the household, family, and since none of them speak English, she's been managing everything for the 4 of them ever since. This includes small but annoying things like her spending 3 hours on hold with Bil's internet provider last weekend because he doesn't understand, even though he understands my English just fine, extending all the way up to her completely setting up, running multiple businesses for her brother for free while working 2 jobs and school since he wasn't in the country. After graduating she began looking for a career but her family sat her down. The businesses made her brother a multi-millionaire, so they told her she was now the COO, without benefits, and determined $60K should cover her expenses despite living in a top 3 cost of living city, which is what she's been at for the past 8 years. I encouraged her to stand up for herself and stop since she won't let me say anything, but instead of increasing her pay he offered to let her do side jobs to make more. She now meal preps lunches and dinners for him, became a notary, is getting her real estate license, builds and manages their websites, manages their social media, etc., all of which she has to do in her off time, for $100 a week minus what we spend on ingredients for his meals. I ask her to stop. I work full-time, we are fine. She refuses. I accepted that all I can do is try. The issue is, each time a side job is added she becomes stressed and short at home unless I get out of work and have the house clean and dinner ready. Even then she might get upset because I left my clothes on the floor when changing after work or something. Normally I just put up with it and take on more, but I finally reached a breaking point and told her no. I was tired of coming second to her brother, and we needed to figure something out. She asked if I really thought she put her family above me, and when I said yes she broke down crying asking what more she could do, that she was doing so much and she needed my help. I told her to stop taking side projects, she refused. As a compromise I told her she needs to take over all of the mental load at home during one of her projects. If she suddenly wants to change the agreed upon setup, I need her to outline via text exactly what she want me to do each day, because I don't know if today she wants to do our normal setup or if I'll get snapped at if the floors aren't swept by the time she gets home and I'm tired of it. I told some friends and they are split. I'm adding more to my wife's already overcrowded plate, but I work full-time as well and can't keep doing this, but don't see another way to put my foot down. Info. What are the agreed upon roles for each of you, regarding household maintenance? Not the asshole. Your wife needs to learn to stand up for herself to her family. Not the asshole. Your wife's plate is crowded by her choice because her family is taking advantage of her. She needs to grow a spine and push back. They need to start handling their shit themselves. Op. I think you should stand up to her family. It's clear that she's being exploited by her family, and she deserves to earn way more as a COO. Tell your Bill that he's a bastard for overworking her for little money. No assholes here, this isn't sustainable. It's okay to tell her this isn't the life you envisioned or agreed to when you married her. It would be one thing if this was temporary, but this is permanent. You two aren't compatible this way, so something has to change.